Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is August 4th, and right now we're looking at the British Columbia Doppler radar. Before we go into things, you can see across the Strait of Georgia towards Vancouver, BC, there are some stronger showers here. These do have waterspout potential. This water is very warm across the Strait of Georgia here. Some chillier air moving aloft makes this an unstable atmosphere, so heads up out there, and maybe you guys can catch a waterspout up towards Vancouver, BC. Going back down towards Camano Island, Puget Sound, you can see we do have some precipitation, mainly Seattle north, kicking off into the Cascades here. And you can see this will be kind of moving off. You can see a little bit of a spin, a little bit of an upper level low here showing up here, but this will kind of linger through into the early afternoon and finally start to dry out as we go on in through this afternoon and tonight across the area here. But you can see mainly Seattle north, winter for the precipitation chances, only a trace here at SeaTac, not much south of Seattle. So checking things out here on the infrared satellite imagery, you can see this upper level low out here that's going to help create this heat wave and then bring a crashing into it too, as it brings a marine push across the area and does spawn some convection for portions of the Pacific Northwest. Not everywhere we'll see convection, but we'll look at that here in a moment. Right now it's in training the remnants of Hurricane Frank, which old tropical system. It's kind of getting caught up in here, and it's going to bring some of that moisture up over us here in a few days. So looking at the Strait of Georgia here too, you can kind of see how that water is pretty warm up there, and that's what's causing that unstable little area near the Strait of Georgia, and that's why those showers are popping up and looking kind of heavy and maybe even a water spout potential. So there's the reason for that. You can see here on the visible satellite imagery, you can see kind of the spin of that upper level low, that cooler areas here across British Columbia, possibly a lightning strike or two. I think this morning occurred over the higher terrain here, but you can see some of that bubble up activity across the Strait of Georgia here going on as this frontal system moves through. It doesn't mean much in the way of precipitation for east portions of Washington and Oregon, but you can kind of see the clouds moving through here. Some lightning going on through Alberta. Here's the lower clouds across Pacific Northwest banked up against the Cascades. It's going to keep us cooler than normal across the region here today before we start to warm up a little bit tomorrow, then turn on the heat a bit Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So looking at Seattle yesterday, 74 degrees, 5 degrees below average, and we're going to probably be similar today and maybe warm up a little bit tomorrow before we start to warm things up Saturday, and especially on Sunday and Monday here. So look at Pendleton, Oregon. Look at this, 99 yesterday, 8 degrees above average. Pretty intense heat wave they just went through, and they're remaining above average for the time being here. And we're going to warm things up again here going on into the weekend, into next week. Now, checking out the European yesterday afternoon's run, you see the frontal system move through, mainly Seattle north. And we start to dry out as we go through. And maybe tomorrow we might get a stray thunderstorm for the North Cascades or the higher terrain of British Columbia, mainly eastern portions. But we dry things out for the most part through this afternoon. As we get towards Sunday here, you can kind of see this upper level low spinning off the coastline of Oregon, California. Eventually starts to bring some monsoon moisture up across western Washington and western British Columbia here as we go through Tuesday. This would be convective in nature here, and not everyone's going to see a thunderstorm again, and it's going to favor some of the higher terrain, but there is that potential for this to occur over the lowlands of Washington and British Columbia here, Vancouver Island. So as you can kind of see that negative tilt to the trough here. Negative tilt means it's curling back towards the northwest here. Here's the upper level low, and you can imagine this being pulled up to the northwest here. So then you see that upper level low depart and really bring a good chance for some precipitation to British Columbia. Thunderstorms would be associated with that as well. Now taking a look here, we're going to speed this ahead all the way into early next week and kind of look at what the potential is for lightning. You can see some monsoon moisture being pulled up again back over Oregon here. And then this starts to extend towards Washington, western Washington here as we go through Tuesday afternoon and even through Wednesday morning. You see that threat continue here. So we'll continue to watch this run by run. These systems are quite fickle, and just the slightest difference in track will mean all the difference in the world to who gets thunderstorms out of this little low pressure system spinning up the coastline here. But again, the higher terrain is definitely going to be favored for those areas of convection. This is the GFS. You can see the frontal system sliding through, and maybe a thunderstorm Friday evening here across the North Cascades. But then we dry out for the weekend. Here goes that upper level low we've been talking about out here. It's going to start to bring that monsoon moisture up into western Washington, portions of northern Oregon even possible, towards British Columbia and Vancouver Island as it swings up through the day Wednesday. You can see a fairly dynamic system here looking like on the GFS. So Again, this would favor the higher terrain, but you can't rule out some thunderstorms for Seattle and BC in a situation like this. Now, this is looking at 925 millibars, about 2,500 foot winds. This will show that system kind of spinning up off the coastline of California here, and you can kind of see it as we go through Saturday morning. The flow turns offshore, so we're going to start to warm up Saturday. You can kind of see this wind creeping across the higher terrain of British Columbia and bringing almost a northeasterly component across the Puget Sound, southwest Washington, through Oregon. You can see it offshore along the Oregon coast. And you'll see that system kind of slide up the coastline here. We're still in the offshore flows. We go through Sunday morning, so we're going to warm up as we have some nice offshore flow here all the way through Monday morning. You can still see this northeast component to the wind coming offshore here before the system finally starts to move up and ejects a marine push across the region here and that possible convection. Now taking a look here, this is 850 millibars. This is North America, Alaska, Washington, Oregon. Here's the Pacific Ocean. And you can see the system sliding through today and into tomorrow, bringing that chillier air, bringing us a nice break from those hot conditions here, especially through British Columbia, western portions of Washington, Oregon. Although you can see why Pendleton was remaining warm, you can still see that warm air aloft over them. Going to get a little bit of a break from that as we go through Friday, but then quickly it's going to bounce back as we go into Saturday, as you can see there. And by Sunday, you can see the warm air all the way back out across Pacific Ocean here. The upper level low is spinning off the north coast of California. And then we're going to get another warm day on Monday and probably one more warm day on Tuesday, and then bring that marine push and convection through the region there. And then you can see Alaska's been dealing with some pretty chilly air aloft here. So we'll see what happens with this very cold air aloft up here in the extended. That's something I'll be watching here as we get closer to that also. But we're still a little bit out there in fantasy land there. And looking at 500 millibars of cyclonic relative vorticity here, kind of looks a little bit threatening as you can see this upper level low off the coast here. This is the European yesterday afternoon. You can kind of see this low taking its sweet time, but you can kind of see that negative tilt to this trough here as it starts to bring some monsoon moisture, and it might reach all the way across Vancouver Island, western Washington, maybe Portland north. But again, the higher terrain is going to be favored in a scenario like this. As you can see this low just eject almost directly across western Washington and Vancouver, BC here. So an interesting system to watch here. It'll be interesting to see just where this spawns thunderstorms. Tri-Cities, you can see yesterday 99. It's going to be a cool down as that system moves through, but then the heat's going to bounce back again. You're going to be up into the hundreds again on into early next week for the Tri-Cities, and then we can pay attention to the extended as we get closer to it. Here's Seattle, Tacoma, the cool down, and then the bounce back. You can see Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and maybe Tuesday, one more warm day. So we could get 4 warm days out of here, and even a couple of these days are flirting with upper 80s towards 90 degrees for SeaTac here. We'll continue to monitor this as we get closer. We're still several days away at this point. Portland Sunday flirting with 100 degrees here on the European as we warm up quickly through Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then we start to cool back down again as that upper level low moves across the region. Here's Seattle, Tacoma showing the same thing, just showing that we will be flirting with 90 degrees potentially on Sunday and Monday coming up here. So the heat will return. Here's Payne Field. You notice it's going to be much chillier up there. It's just we're going to be dealing with the warm up a bit here, but they're not going to be quite as warm as Seattle. You get the cooling effects of some of the Puget Sound going on across the region here, and then more seasonable temperatures in the extended, but that doesn't mean too much. But we will warm up portions north of Seattle as well, but not as much. And again, this is the European for Portland. We saw that one. Here's the critical fire danger here for Montana. Some isolated dry thunderstorms for portions of Montana towards Yellowstone, and elevated fire danger for eastern Washington and Oregon. Pretty typical once we get to this time of year. Day 2, they actually took down any kind of critical or enhanced fire weather conditions there. Here's the fires that are going on now, and you can see how the smoke is kind of moving off to the east here. Let's go ahead and see if we can update this. And we'll go near surface smoke and show us that. And we'll put this in play. Now the problem is we get some low-level offshore winds as we go, but some of these winds aloft, once this low pressure system gets close to us, are going to start pulling some of this smoke across western Oregon, Washington, up across Vancouver Island. So even though we might not get the really low level surface smoke out of over the weekend and through next week, we may get some smoke aloft as these fires are going to start to take aim up across western Oregon and Washington, as these upper level winds are going to start steering out of the south and the southeast across the region here. So we'll have to watch for that. Hopefully some of these fires will get extinguished a little bit, but it's something of concern at this point. Here's a 6 to 10 day kind of showing that increase in heat coming up here, but we are going to cool down probably at the end of this period. Look at Alaska. I mean, just bullseyed right there with the likely below average temperatures coming up here. You can see 6 to 10 day, the monsoon moisture. It looks like it may extend all the way up towards western Washington at some point coming up here. But yeah, strong monsoon season going on here today. And you can see it going on this morning down there too. Quite a bit of lightning out here for portions of western Arizona out towards the deserts of California. And I lived in Tonopah, Nevada there for a few months, and it gets wild when it rains out there. It doesn't even take that much rain, and there's big gully washers. It kind of reshapes the dirt out there. It creates these huge gullies. It's pretty intense. It's kind of a unique area. It doesn't get much rainfall, but when it does, it can come hard and fast here with the monsoon season. But yeah, there's our upper level low. This is what we're going to be watching the next few days to see just how it evolves and just exactly where it impacts us here in the Pacific Northwest. High confidence that it will bring a marine push across the region here, and it probably will bring some convection for the higher terrain. Good confidence in that too. Whether or not it brings thunderstorms to Portland, Seattle, or Vancouver, BC, or any of lowlands of western Washington, western BC, is still up in the air at this point. That can still change. So yeah, interesting summer pattern coming up here. We're going to get the return of the heat, and then we're going to cool ourselves back down again here, and we'll continue to watch the extended forecast as well. So hope you guys are having a good day and enjoy this break from the heat while it lasts here, because it's coming back, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.